All right, I am here with Chef Joe from Mulberry's, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the dish you're making because I'll screw it up, but go ahead and tell us what you're making.
It's called Bucatini Amatraciana, which is basically, it's a Roman dish. And the bucatini is, the pasta is named bucatini because it has a hole in it. In Italian, a hole means buco. And it's from a region called Amatrice, so they just kind of combined to Bucatini Amatraciana.
Yeah, you know, I first saw the pasta, I thought it was spaghetti, but don't be confused because it has that little tube, probably kind of holds in the sauce a little bit.
A little bit thicker.
All right, and so what other ingredients do we have?
We have guanciale, which is actually pork jowl. If anyone comes to the Mulberry, they know we like to use cheeks, and that's a pork cheek. We serve veal cheeks as well. A little garlic, some onion, fresh parsley, some pecorino romano, salt, pepper, a little crushed red pepper, and we're going to use cherry tomatoes, which really isn't Roman. It's more Southern Italian, but I like the cherry tomatoes. It gives a little more it's a little better on the eye, I guess.
Okay, so it makes a good plate presentation then.
Right, exactly.
Okay, and so tell us a little bit more about this kind of meat, because I know we haven't really tried that here. Nobody that's, you know, and on the Winging It crew has tried this kind of meat.
Well, you won't really find it in the supermarket. Like I said, it's called guanciale, which means cheek. It's actually, you could call it Roman bacon. If people get scared when they hear pork cheek or guanciale, they can't pronounce it, so they're afraid to order it. But it's pork cheek, and it's rich. It's bacon. Basically, it's bacon.
Okay, but it probably tastes a little different than bacon, right?
It's just a little richer, just a little bit richer.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll get started on cooking this in just a little bit, but for now, we're going to send it on over to Emily with your .com check. With Chef Joe from Mulberry's, and we just threw our pasta into the boiling water, and this is actually kind of a special pasta. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's bucatini, and buco means hole in Italian. There's a little hole in the middle of the pasta. In the old days, they take a long needle and just roll the pasta up over it and pull it out. So it's a little bit thicker. You cook it al dente. It has a little bit more tooth to it than, say, spaghetti or linguine.
And so how long does this typically take to cook?
About 8 minutes.
And what kind of sauces do you typically use for this kind of pasta?
Bucatini is basically very specific to the dish we're making today, which is bucatini alla matriciana. You could use it in any dish that you use spaghetti or linguine in, but bucatini is very specific to this dish.
Okay, and tell us a little bit more about the dish, why it's one of your favorites.
Well, I started eating this dish in New York. We take a lot of trips to New York and, fill the tank. And it's very comforting, which is mostly what we do with the Mulberry. It's a lot of comfort food. So this is one of those comfort food kind of things. On a nice cold day or a nice hot day, it works on either occasion. It's not heavy, but it's not too light.
And we're not going to get started on the sauce until the next segment, because you said it goes pretty quick after you start cooking. Just tell us a little bit more about Mulberry's, what people can find if they head over to your restaurant.
Well, we're known for our meatballs, but we also have, like I said, a lot of comfort food, a lot of Southern Italian food, a lot of red sauce. But we've also added some other dishes. Comfort food is really what people come for. I think a lot of chefs make mistakes of cooking what they want people to eat as opposed to cooking what people want to eat. So we try to cook what people want to eat. And then now we've been sprinkling a little bit of some different dishes that I've learned through my travels to Italy and New York and different cities. We're just put a homemade agnolotti on the menu, which is made with veal and a nice beef reduction, some little beach mushrooms, cute little mushrooms. Actually, we made it on the show here. And some different type of homemade pastas, tortellini, agnolotti al plin, just different type of stuff.
Well, we'll get started on this in just a minute. We're going to send it over to break, but our Star Athlete Week continues. When we come back, we'll learn how to talk to your kids about sportsmanship in the hot sauce. And a little later, News 4's Anthony Conji will remind us to stop and smell the roses with a trip to the Garden Loft Buffalo. And I am back at the kitchen with Chef Joe from Mulberry's, and we are about ready to get started on the sauce for our dish here.
All right. We start with some extra virgin olive oil. Just enough to coat the pan because we're going to render some fat off of this guanciale here. We're going to put that in first.
And again, this is the pork jaw, correct?
Right. This is Roman bacon is what we like to say. And the pan isn't very hot. Come on,
This is something that you have to come into the restaurant for because you can't just go pick it up at the supermarket.
Yeah, definitely. So this will, hopefully we'll get some heat on this pan here. And this will start to render its fat. And this is really what's going to lend all the flavor to the dish. We're not going to use a whole lot of salt because we're going to finish it with pecorino romano, and pecorino romano has a tremendous amount of salt concentration, so we just need that to
It'll start going there. So you're actually not using a whole lot of the meat there?
No, we're not going to use a whole lot of it because, again, it is rich, it is flavorful, It is going to render some fat. It's going to give us a lot of flavor, so you don't need a whole lot of it. I mean, if you're a bacon lover and you really want to go for it, you can do it, but...
You don't want to overdo it, though.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And so that's going to cook up here a little bit. We took the pasta out of the water. You said it's about 80% done, so we're just going to throw it in at the very end, warm it up, and...
Throw it back in, and we're going to use some of that pasta water to contain some starch, so that's going to... Actually, people are afraid that when they drain their pasta, there's a little bit of water, it's okay, because that water contains starch. It contains flavor from the pasta, so that adds a little bit to the dish. So don't be afraid of that if you're making it at home. So
maybe set a little aside before you throw it all out.
Originally I had put this bowl here because I thought we were going to strain it, but we cooked it early, so that's okay. So what we'll do is we'll take it right from there with the tongs, and there'll be a little bit of that pasta water in here.
Okay, perfect.
We just need some heat here.
All right, well, what would be the next step? Say this is, you know, oh, there we go.
There we go.
We'll get some.
All right. So we're going to throw a little garlic in there. And this garlic will start to cook up. We want the garlic to just lightly brown.
Okay.
And hopefully now we'll get some heat. You can hear that starting to heat up a little bit.
Yeah, you can hear it going.
And Amatraciana also the onions are also a big part of this dish. So we're going to put some onions in there as well. Can't be afraid of onions if you're going to eat this.
You better like onions, right?
Right.
All right, get the nice flip going. You can tell you've done this a few times.
We'll let that simmer for another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll put the tomatoes in and we'll let her rip.
And is this a dish you always have at Mulberry's, or is this kind of a special treat?
This is special. And again, like I said, you know, we try to stick to comfort food that you come in and you're familiar with. And then our specials are typically items that you might come in and say, oh, I'd like to try that. During Restaurant Week, we do a 5-course tasting menu. What we try to do is we try to introduce people to things that they may have not eaten or wouldn't have ordered because sometimes you don't order it because you can't pronounce it. Yeah. So if you're not familiar with it, you're not going to order it. So
just point to it, right? Point to it
yeah, I'll have that, right.
No, but you want to sound like you can speak Italian, so it's just embarrassing, you know?
Right.
Okay. All right, so we got that going. What's next?
We're going to put a little pepper in there now. And a little bit of crushed red pepper, just for a touch of kick, not too much, just a bite.
Okay. Got the flip going again.
We're just going to wait for these tomatoes here, or 10 seconds or so.
All right. And so again, what kind of tomatoes are we using?
These are cherry tomatoes. These are from Italy. Typically in this dish you wouldn't use cherry tomatoes. You'd probably take some plum tomatoes and crush them with your hand. But we're going to use cherry tomatoes just because they look a little bit nicer. And you don't need a whole lot of those. Come on, baby. Sometimes it needs a little prodding, right?
Yeah, for sure. But it looks like it's going pretty well now.
We're getting there. So now we'll put some pasta in here.
Okay, so the pasta goes back into the water.
We'll put it in the water here. That's just going to cook for a minute, just to reheat it.
Okay.
Because we do want it to remain al dente. Al dente means still a little firm, has a little firmness to it.
And why is that important?
If you go eat pasta in Italy or even a good Italian restaurant in New York and the pasta isn't al dente, that the chef will, you know, literally want to shoot himself. It's just one of those things. I think in Western New York, where we get there's so many, the Olive Garden, for example, some of these types of places where everything is pre-cooked and it's not done to order, the pasta tends to be a little bit overcooked. I don't mean to single out the Olive Garden, but just the first thing that came to mind. Your pasta should be al dente. It should have a little bit of bite.
All right, well, we are going to finish up this dish, and we'll have the finished product coming up in second helping, and we'll also get a look at the forecast. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm in the kitchen with Chef Joe from Mulberry's. We are starting our second dish. You're making, you said it's kind of like a gourmet mac and cheese.
This is called cacio e pepe, which means cheese and pepper. And all this is some butter, some pecorino romano, and some black pepper. And that's the entire dish in and of itself.
So talk about easy, right?
Very easy. If you want to talk about an easy second helping, this is the one right here.
And this is one that probably any kid will like as well.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they can be a little picky.
As long as they like black pepper. And again, this is one of those dishes that we put on special, or we have as a special. Mm-hmm. We're just going to do the pasta here quickly.
So are we throwing the pasta back in the water? Or?
Just to give it a little heat.
Awesome. And by the way, this other pasta dish is amazing. Usually we try to share with the crew. I'm afraid it might be gone before the end of the show's over. All right.
And just some more cheese in here. And a little more of this.
So how do you know when you've had enough cheese in there?
You
You never have enough cheese.
Exactly. It's really it's up to you. How much cheese do you want? So this is what it looks like. And we'll just put a little bit more cheese in there. And again, this is a salty cheese, so it's going to be a little bit briny. We use the word briny in the restaurant instead of too salty.
Oh, briny. Okay. I'll use that one.
Need a plate here.
All right, perfect.
And we'll plate this one up.
Yeah, I don't mind this one. That looks not as pretty as it did when it originally went on the plate. I couldn't help myself.
All right.
Awesome.
There you have bucatini, cacio e pepe.
Can't wait to try that.